Deputy Reed Campbell, Councillor Knott. All in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, if any. Trevor?
Terry, I will be declaring a conflict of interest on anything discussion about the hospital donation. I'm an ex officio board member of the hospital foundation, and due to some legal advice, that seemed to be the best option for me to do.
Okay, Donna White, our treasurer, take over now.
Okay, thank you, Reed. Vincent, so good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. I'm sorry, folks, that I have my back to you, but I'm hoping that you can see here. And at the end of the evening, we are definitely going to have the opportunities for a question and answer period. So hopefully you'll all stay for that, and we can get whatever questions you have answered or get back to you with that. So tonight's goal is to present an overview of the 2016 budget as it sits at the moment. The full budget, as you know, is about 65 pages, and it details all the 49 departments line by line. So that full budget and all the various versions as we have worked through the last few months has been on our website since about February 8th, when we first started our first round of meetings. We will also have a section tonight for council to further discuss the various donations that we discussed at the last meeting, and we have various some letters and correspondence to go along with those discussions. So by the end of the evening, I'm hopeful that we are in a position to make a recommendation to adopt the budget at the April 18th council meeting without any further discussion at that time. And as I was mentioning, at the end of the evening tonight, we certainly want to allow the opportunity for our gallery to ask questions and answers, and give them an opportunity to provide comment, and we can get back to them or help them with their questions depending on what that may be. So we're going to move right along. So the budget composition, the budget is made up of many components. We have many departments, there's expenses, revenues, reserves, all sorts of things that help us in making up a full budget. So what's important to us? So as outlined in the strategic plan, we have determined what is important to North Huron. And those main items are economic development, communication and citizen engagement, fiscal responsibility and operational excellence, healthy and safe communities, and we value and protect our natural environment. So the budget process, there are main 4 steps in the budget cycle. So we have planning and budgeting, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. So the planning stage is really letting us know that the budget is a complex and lengthy procedure. We review priorities from council, we look at grants and projects, and it becomes more and more difficult each year. And I do have to admit, this year has been the most challenging as yet. And I expect that that will continue on as we move forward with limited funds over the next few years. The budget is definitely a teamwork exercise. The department heads start gathering information in the fall, and the budget is just a starting point. We've been through many versions already. We've had various cuts and changes along the way. Also, many factors that are incorporated into the budget are increased costs, inflation, priorities, decreases in funding, where we want to end up, and the previous year actuals. So the implementation phase translates the budget numbers into action, and the budget is an estimate, and although we still try to get all the best prices throughout the year through various contracts and tendering and even negotiation in order to be able to get the best price possible. The continuous process doesn't stop with the passing of the budget. We have quarterly reports for council. The department heads review the reports monthly, and I review them even oftener than that. So as a team, we are constantly monitoring the process to see that we are on target. The final stage is evaluation phase, and we evaluate current options and procedures and make any changes for the next year. And this gives us also the opportunity to file annual reports. So we're always trying something new during this phase. And last year we had a post-budget brainstorming session. And that led to some lengthy service review reports, and some of those are still underway. So we have some ideas on how we would like to implement some post-budget actions this year as well. Our ongoing challenges. So our reduction of our OMPF funding, and that is our main source of provincial unconditional funding. So we had a drop there of $53,100. We had increased OPP costs for the Blythe and East Wawanosh ward totaling $45,482. We have increased utility costs, increased wage and benefit costs, and COLA was 1.49% this year. We have shifting of tax burdens and the declining industrial and commercial values while having increased farmland values. So the East Wawanosh folks will continue to notice that the farmland properties see taxes increasing relating to the significant increases in assessment that they are getting on a yearly basis. Another challenge is our infrastructure deficit and all the things that we have to do for asset management. And a big challenge is to maintain the existing programs and services that we already have. So from our last meeting, we left off at 5.04%. Now we're at 4.86%. So staff went back and got a few more decreases and a few increases, but not enough to bring us down significantly. So council's direction was to take a second look where possible on advertising and limit the advertising throughout the year as much as possible, other than mandated anything that we absolutely have to do to meet our municipal requirements. And again, this is something that we're going to monitor all year. So in the Economic Development Department, the advertising was further reduced by $3,000. In recreation, it was reduced by $2,000. We had some increased costs relating to our fire prevention officer. We had minor changes up and down in some of the facility budgets. At last meeting, deferred to this meeting, was another new request for a donation from the Godrich Legion in the amount of $1,000 for an Afghanistan Monument Committee. And we also reduced some of the meeting allowances in the admin budget. But as I said, that took us from 5.04 down to now where we're at 4.86. So I just want to let you know what that really means. So an overall spending increase of 4.86 is only $220,205. And our total expenses for the year are estimated at $16,127,562. We raised from taxation $4,750,478. We have our base rate, which everybody contributes to, and that is $3,313,954. And we raised $1,430,462 from area rating, and we raised $6,062 from flat rate of streetlights in the hamlet. And just to note, water and sewer services have no effect on the tax rates because they are fully funded by user fees. So just to give you a bit of a background on the special area rates, so Wingham has an area rate only to their ward of $1,140,860, and that pertains to the Wingham Police and street lighting in Wingham. Blythe has $170,898, and again, OPP policing and street lighting. And the East Wawanosh ward has $118,704, and that is basically for the OPP policing. So for Blythe, their policing was up about $23,000, $23,600 from last year, and Blythe was up about 21,831. So overall, as I said earlier, the OPP policing costs for those two wards have increased by $45,482. So both BIAs have levies, which are levied on the tax bills we do the collecting on their behalf. And so both of these levies and their budgets need to come forward at the next meeting. So Blythe is looking for 6,600 and Wingham is looking for 26,500. Now there could be some new finalized numbers, but those are the last numbers that I have received. So those are all what is on the tax bill. So just to give you a bit of an idea, a 1% increase, sometimes people do get really hung up on percentages and it sounds like a lot of money. So a 1% increase here generates $45,302 for us to work with. And based on the average assessment here in North Huron, the average assessment has been determined to be $161,000 for a single family residential home. So at the end of the day, that's going to result in that type of a home in Wingham, an increase for the year of $82.66, for Blythe, $96.77, and for East Wawanach, $72.70. Now, I noted here that the education rates have not been finalized and our whole presentation was made that way until 4:15 when they arrived. And so I didn't have a chance to redo this whole thing. So I did some quick calculations to see how it would affect some of the final results, and I'll share those with you as we move on to those. So North Huron is a service industry. So as you can imagine, our greatest expense pertains to wages and benefits. So this year, our total wages and benefits, including council honorarium, is $5,347,559. Now that's about 33.16% of the total budget. And it varies by department and it varies by the number of full-time and part-time due to the seasons. Now, this year for 2016, it's also been adjusted due to the Veolia contract proposal and the shared services project. So we're still fleshing some of that out, but that is why the wages and benefits would be down a bit. Capital spending, we're looking at spending $4,255,817. So I'm going to whip through fairly quickly what those projects are. So we have at the town hall and the complex, we have some IT equipment. We're having some troubles with backup and some copiers, and we have implemented the new eScribe, which is the council format that they're using these days. So that's about $45,850. The town hall HVAC, which we're coordinating with the theater project, is going to cost about $28,000. The theater renovations, which are funded fully by the committee, are going to be estimated at about $120,000. We have some general facility repairs estimated at $20,000. So Pat and I have been talking, and we're hoping that I'm probably jinxing us by saying so right now, but if there is no new leaks or any new problems or roofs blowing off or whatever till later on in the year, what we would like to propose is that we use that money for a building condition assessment or some investigative work on building conditions. So we'll see how the year goes there. So the fire department is getting a new, or has already received a new pumper tanker. It was $319,000. There's some work being done at the Wingham Fire Station, a diesel exhaust separation system of $33,000. There's some renovations going on at the EST building for about $9,000. Public Works are getting some equipment attachments at $24,000. They are purchasing 3 of the trucks from the water department, and that will cost about $28,400. The police are looking for a new cruiser at $39,000. One of our very biggest projects this year is phase 2 of the Westmoreland Street project in Blythe, and that is estimated at $300,000. Phase 1 of Arthur Street, it's a joint project with Morris Turnberry, is estimated at $220,000. And the Patrick Street reconstruction project is estimated at about $325,000, and this project is just out for tender now. The House and Dam project, council gave approval to proceed with the environmental assessment, and that's going to cost about $80,000, which is coming out of the House and Dam Reserve. Then in Blythe, the new well project, this is the second year for that. The tender has been accepted, so that is a pretty significant project in Blythe as well. And the well itself is $461,000, and the new building to house it is $90,000. So we're looking at $551,000 down there for that new project or continuing project. The Wingham Water Tower is new, and we are looking at an environmental assessment which will cost about $100,000 for the preliminary work there to get started on that project. We are looking at purchasing 2 niche walls in Blythe, and that's already been adopted by council, and that money was funded by a bequest, and the project was started last year. So this is the second piece. The landscape work was done last year, and then the columbariums will actually be placed this year. And so also in the budget, there was one for Wingham, and Wingham had a much smaller bequest to offset it, but still there was some money available to help pay for that. The Recreation Department has been doing an intensive amount of research on online software and to update all their softwares to be able to provide better customer service from the ease of your own home. And also there is some pieces of office equipment down there. And in the fitness center, there is some cardio equipment for about $25,000 that they're looking at. So at the West Cass Complex, the ongoing work for the pool liner, we've talked about it through the various stages of the budget. So this year, the $20,000 that's in the budget is for investigative work. This is a very big project that we will likely have to tackle next year, we're hoping. And it'll cost, we're hoping, somewhere around $400,000, but until we get all the research done, we'll have to see exactly how much that's all going to be. And we'll likely end up having to borrow that money because, as I said, with the budget challenges we're facing these days, we just simply wouldn't be able to pay for it full out. Also at the West Cass Complex, we were having some ongoing roof repairs. Pat's looking at about $82,000 worth of repairs down there this year. And over at the Wingham Library, we're looking at about $18,887 worth of window work and replacement over there. So the big project, or one of the biggest projects, is the Memorial Hall project in conjunction with 1419. So this is phase 1 of the renovation project, which gets us through till December 31st of this year. So that is estimated at $1,542,000. Some other projects on the go are, this is our 5-year update required for our development charges bylaw. So that has to be finished by October, and that costs about $18,500. We have our shared services project on the go with Morris Turnberry, and we have our new Veolia contract proposal, and it is about $625,000. And then some other projects that we would like to finish up this year are the roads needs study at about $19,500, And we want to get some sanitary sewer camera work done to, in conjunction with our asset management plan and roads needs study to give us some really good data to move forward on long-term planning. So we have a fair amount of debt for a small municipality. At the end of December 2015, we still owed $2,227,228. And that's made up of various projects. So we had borrowed $264,000 over 10 years for the RINC grant. And we had borrowed $1,200,000 over 20 years for the ESTC Center. We had borrowed $242,000 over 15 years for a grader out at East Wawanash. And the fire payouts, when the fire boards dissolved to pay the partners, we had to borrow $838,000 over 15 years. We had some various roads projects that we had to pay for, and that was $293,000 over 10 years. So our total debt payments this year in 2016 is $249,798, which $165 is principal and about $84,000 is interest. So before we start any project in a year, we have to make sure that we have our debt obligations met. So some of these projects started in 2011 and the rest started in 12. So the 2016 payments will be 5 years for some of these projects. So at least a couple of them would be halfway then.
So Donna,
Yes.
just a question, actually, this is a question with regards to the ESTC. When the conversation that we've had with the, to get KPMG to do business plan, is the intention is the business plan to incorporate this debt into that business plan? Because my feeling is whatever income or whatever business plan that center says that it's going to make or not make should be covering its own loan. Like do you know what I mean? Like my sense is that I want to just make sure the business plan incorporates the payments of these debts, because I think it's valuable that if we're going to treat that as a center, that is a profitable center, that has to be a part of it.
Sure.
In my opinion.
Certainly, and those would be all the discussions. I haven't had any talks with them as yet, but I mean, I have lists of things myself that I would like to discuss with them on various topics and the debt and how it's all shared and the space and all of that kind of thing. And David will have the same conversations and ideas as well. So
Okay.
for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to come back to this. We're going to finish the presentation first, but we are going to come back to this. So this will just give you some time to think as we move forward. So in 2016, we had a series of new large donation requests. And so as at last meeting, those new requests amounted to $80,500 or a 1.78% increase. So just to recap, that was a proposed donation to the hospital of $65,000 per year for 7 years. Building bridges at the school, $7,500 for 2016 and 17. The Blythe BIA marketing position of $5,000. R2R 1419, they had requested $5,000, but you had suggested $1,000. And the Golf and Curling Club had also requested $5,000, and you had suggested $1,000. And also you had a new request come forward at that last meeting for from the Godrich Legion for an Afghanistan Monument Committee of $1,000. And then we've always had approximately $11,800, which I would like you to review, and that particular listing is on your desk to go through before tonight is over as well. So at the moment, the donation budget for 2016 sits at the $92,300. So as I said, we're going to come back to that and that listing. So one of the questions we always get asked are, why are taxes so high? And the answer is reasonably simple, but very hard to fix. So in North Huron, as a small municipality with a population of less than 5,000 people, we offer a very wide range of facilities, programs, and services, usually provided by a much larger municipality. We have low overall taxable assessment, and it has also been shown that we have low average assessment, especially on older homes and farmhouses out in the country. We also face challenges with our low population base and geography. So when we're in a long, narrow strip, it brings about circumstances making servicing a little more difficult. And so therefore then we have, a number of duplicates. So we have 2 libraries, we contribute to 3 landfills and 3 recreation centers. We have 3 public works sheds, 2 fire stations, 2 water systems, and we pay into Belgrave, and 2 sanitary sewer systems. And the list goes on and on of all those things that we're providing. People seem to think that properties aren't selling, however, but actually I would like to show some statistics showing the activity of property sales, which is quite good. So the number of properties that sold in 2015 was 125 properties, and the value of the sales was $27,420,000. And in 2014, 100 properties sold, and that value was at $22,547,000. So it is encouraging that the properties are continuing to sell. So I'm not going to go over this in huge detail, but this just gives you the idea of what I was speaking about before. So where do we spend your money? So we have council and administration, animal control, emergency planning, planning and development. We have the 2 fire stations under the North Huron Fire Department. We have the EST Center in Blythe, the North Huron Museum, the sanitary sewer systems in Wingham and Blythe. We have full-time policing in the Wingham ward and OPP policing for Blythe and East Wawanach. We have cemeteries in Wingham and Blythe. We have child care center, including before and after early years and early learning programs. We have quite a number of parks, trails, playgrounds, sports fields in both Wingham and Blythe. We pay towards the Maitland Valley Conservation Levy and the Wingham Trailer Park and the Blythe Campground and the Richard Levan Airport. We have building official and property standard services. We have the North Huron Westcast Community Complex and the Blythe Arena and Hall. We also contribute to the Belgrave Arena, which is operated separately by a board. We have water systems in Wingham and Blythe, and we pay our share of the Belgrave system. We look after drainage, community development or economic development, Memorial Hall and meeting room in Blythe. For our waste department, we operate the landfill at Wingham, and we still have costs associated with the East Wawanach landfill and pay our share out at the Blythe Hullet landfill. We have the Wingham Library. We have the Blythe Library, which is a leased property. We maintain 167 kilometers of roads, 11 bridges, and some traffic lights. And we make numerous community commitments and donations. We have street lights in Wingham and Blythe and some of the hamlets. And we have a great number of recreation programs, fitness programs, aquatics, day camps. And of course, we've talked about our debt payments. So that in a short slide gives you a bit of an idea of what we're dealing with on a daily basis. So where does the money go? So for your municipal dollars, 58.71% or $4,744,000 stays here in the municipality. We collect on behalf of the county and the school board. So for the county, we send them $2,107,000, and that's 26.07%. And for the school boards, we send them $1,129,000, but as I was saying, those rates will go down today now that we have just received them. So there will be a slight change there. And so the education, we send them about 15.22% of what we collect in total. So in total, we collect in taxes $8,081,000 on our tax bills that will be going out in 2016. So again, just an allocation by ward to see where the money is collected. So 60.38% of the money comes from Wingham, 17.45% comes from Blythe, and East Wallanosh contributes 22.16%. So that just gives you a bit of a idea of who's paying what share. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see these specific properties. They are very small. Now, I did put out some extra ones for council to have a look at. So what this is basically showing you is some known properties in each of the 3 wards, and just to show you what the differences would be based on the budget as it sits today and those tax rates before we make any further changes. So I guess it's up to council to determine what is an acceptable dollar amount. And as I said, with the education rates coming in late this afternoon, I would expect those rates have decreased as what you would expect. And so I am thinking that it'll probably drop most of these overall increases by about $10. Also on a note, our increases in dollars last year in 2015 were very low, and all 3 wards ended up with increases less than about $40 on the average property. So we are a bit higher than that this year. So our first example is a house in Wingham assessed this year at $142,000. So the taxes on that property would be $2,770 as opposed to what the assessment was last year. So it'd be looking at about an $83.89. Now, having checked the education rates, that'll probably drop about $10. So that would be down to more like $73 for the year. The next property is assessed at $167,000, and again, they would be looking at $82.29, and there will be an adjustment for the education, probably down about 10. The next property is one of the houses up in the subdivisions assessed higher at $265,000. So their taxes would be $5,169.59. And so they would be about $139.63. So again, there would see some type of a drop on there for education. In Blythe, this particular property at $113,000 would pay $1,898.80. So it'll again about $58.18, but again a decrease because of education. And then a property assessed at $261,000 would pay $4,385.73. So $115 more. And again, there would be an adjustment for education. So this East Wallanosh property, which has a home on it and then plus the farmland. So as I said, our average increase this year was about 3.04. And so that's what those percentages are out in the column to show you where these properties fit, whether they were higher or lower than what the average was. So based on that, this farm property, as we were talking earlier in East Wallanosh, their assessment increase was pretty significant, 11.19%. So that's where the biggest chunk of an increase is. That farm property would pay $207 more, where the house would only pay about $24 more. And again, they would be adjusted based on the education rates. So I'll let you mull those figures out as increases for a year so that you can just have some idea where we've ended up here until this point. I want to talk to you about asset management. It's one of my favorite topics and something that we'll be dedicating a lot of staff time to in 2016. So the asset management plan is on the website, and this year we're tackling phase 2, which is adding the balance of our assets, which will be at least $50 million, and that will include buildings, fleet, machinery, and equipment. And again, we've been talking amongst ourselves about the possibility of a building inventory and condition assessment, but we need to do some research on that. So I want to give you a heads up that we will be bringing some type of a report later on in the year back to you to discuss that a little bit further. So the estimated value of our core assets was $141,627,000. So it's really important to create a financing strategy to give us some long-term planning and help us achieve our goals. Capital infrastructure is a link to the quality of life and the competitiveness and economic development in your community. So it's all very important. Some other municipalities raise this infrastructure money by capital levies, prioritization, education. They use a combination of debt, user fees, and pay-as-you-go. So it all depends on what situation that you're looking at. So we have tough decisions ahead, and we are basically focusing on the future for 2016. We have many projects on the go, and we're hoping to complete as many as possible in the time before the year flies by on us, since this is already April. So before we get too much further along, I would like to flip back to our donation sheet, and we're going to have some further discussions on the donations. So let's just do that for a moment. Okay, so that's the page just after debt obligations. So you've received a number of correspondence. I'm not sure whether Sharon or Kathy, do you want to go over the correspondence that's been received as part of the agenda?
Yes, we've received letters from both BIAs. Rick Elliott is here in attendance, and we do have some members of the Wingham BIA as well. Council has that in their package. And so it essentially discusses the large donations that have been made by council or were discussed at the last meeting by council. And the general concept behind the communication is that there is some concern on behalf of ratepayers of making donations of this size on behalf of the ratepayers. And so I think that wants some discussion, and we may have some members in the gallery that would like to address that as well tonight.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to go over those donations with you one more time, and also the list of what I call smaller donations. So for the bigger donations then, as discussed at last meeting, we had $65,000 per year for 7 years for the hospital. Building bridges, $7,500 for this year and next. The Blythe BIA marketing position of $5,000, and I believe there was further information to come back on that one. And also the R2R 1419 campaign, and I think, Sharon, were you speaking with them about that at some point? As well as the Golf and Curling Club was $1,000. And then the new one that was deferred at the last meeting was this Afghanistan monument request from the Godrich Legion of $1,000, and then your previous listing of $11,800. So what I would like to do right now is to jump to our smaller list, the $11,800, and I just want to go through with you where that list went. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Okay. It's not going to fit the screen very well, but you can see them up there as we talk about them. Okay, so in the fall of last year, we implemented a donation and fee waiving policy. And what donation policy is pertaining to is a straight donation, no strings attached. So we have historically contributed to various organizations in the community for projects and events that council has deemed worthwhile. So we had come up with a process though whereby they had to submit each year and submit by November the 1st on our required form. And we tried our best to notify all the recipients who had received funds in previous years, but I'm not sure that everybody actually got the message on that. So I want to run through the how that turned out and get you to make some individual decisions on this listing. So the elementary school fair, which is held in Belgrave, sent in the completed form on time in the required format, and they were requesting $300. The Blythe Festival tourist booth, we had previously given them $1,000, but they sent in a request for $2,000 on the format by November 1st, as did the Blythe Festival Youth Outreach Program for their Youth Professional Arts Program. And again, their request was increased from $2,000 up from $1,500. And again, it came in the proper format and on time. The Blythe Festival Hall Management of $4,700. This has always fallen under this category, so it was important not to forget it, but we will be moving it out of this donation category because it actually is a formal agreement that we have with the Blythe Festival. The new group of the Blythe Horticulture, we didn't, or Friends, I'm not sure what their title is, but they're working together to come up with a new group. So we haven't heard from them at this point. And I think they did have sufficient funds from last year to be able to operate, but I'm sure they will contact us if they have anything new there. The Wingham Horticulture also is requesting $750. That's what I put in as a match for last year. Their form did come in, but they actually didn't specify amount. The Wingham Firefighters Association, we've been in the habit of giving them $550 towards the July fireworks, but they didn't send in any type of form. Nor did the Huron County Farm and Home Safety Association. We had been contributing to them, and we didn't receive anything from them as well. The Huron Plowmen's Association, we did receive the request by the correct date on the correct form for $125. For Big Brothers and Big Sisters for their bowling, it wasn't on our form, but it was a formal letter requesting $100. The Big Brothers and Sisters Jumpstart program is a program that Pat works with through the recreation. And we had been giving them $500, but we didn't receive an actual written request at that point this year. United Way, we had been giving them $500, but as you remember, they came into you last fall and actually did a presentation to you. And you didn't make a promise as to how much you would give them, but they did request something formally. As did the North Huron Community Food Bank. We had given them $500 before. They also came in and did a full delegation and didn't actually specify an amount also. So we have discussed the building bridges, and instead of $40,000, you had proposed $7,500 for 2 years. The hospital, we had put in originally $100,000 a year for 5 years, and so that had been changed down to $65,000 for 7 years. The golf club there was a formal letter, not the request form, but you had proposed 1,000. The Clinton Public Hospital for a sponsorship gala, you said you would discuss it at this time. And they had, did not fill the form in, but they sent you that full package and formal letter. And they're looking for sponsorship, which ranges between $200 and $5,000. So you haven't actually discussed that one. The Huron Pioneer Threshers requested the building permit fees be waived, which there's really no value assigned to that. And actually that would be through the fee waiving. Sorry, we moved down. So there's no value assigned to that, and that would actually go under the fee waiving policy, so we can discuss that further at another time. St. John's Ambulance, support for various programs. They didn't fill in the form, but they did send a formal letter requesting $500. Inspiring Women in Huron also did not send the form that we have, but they sent in a formal letter requesting a sponsorship from between $500 and $2,500. And the Rural Talks to Rural 1419, that was a $5,000 delegation as they appeared before you, and you had proposed at last meeting 1,000. And then the new one, the Godrich Legion of 1,000, you just deferred it to tonight. So I would like to go through this list and get some answers on this list if we can this evening. And then we can proceed with going back to our bigger list. So I would like to go back to the start of the list. And I guess I just wanted to point out too, just because council implemented a donation policy, we still said that they had the opportunity to determine whether you could select some, none, all, part, or whatever of those lists. Just by having the completed form in on time didn't guarantee that you were going to get this donation. So really, as time has marched on here, I would like to be able to contact these groups though and let them know one way or another whether they're going to be receiving funds or not, as I said, because time is slipping along. So would you like to go through this list one by one and do it that way, or does anyone have an easier way?
I think that would be the most complete way to do it.
Okay, so the elementary school fair, we have given them 300 in the past, and they had requested 300 this year, and they had their forms in. So would you all be in agreement to continue with that donation? Yes? Okay. The Blythe Festival Tour booth had increased their request from 1,000 to 2,000, and they did have their forms in on time.
Trevor.
I would recommend just going back to the 1,000.
1,000? Okay. The Blythe Festival Youth Outreach last year was 1,500, and they were requesting 2,000. 15?
Last year.
And the 4,700 is part of this budget, but since our new way of doing things, we're going to move it out of here before the end of the year or before next year's round. Wingham Horticultural had their letter in but didn't specify an amount, so I had suggested same as last year.
Okay with that?
I'll say yes.
The Firefighters Association didn't send anything in. So do you want to consider that at a later date, or?
I would suggest waiting for a request.
Yeah. And the same with the Huron County Farm and Home. We didn't receive a request from them. And the Huron Plowmans, we did receive the proper form by the proper date for the same amount of 125.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The Big Brothers and Big Sisters Bowl for Kids' Sake fundraiser. They didn't fill it in on our form, but they did send a formal letter.
So what is the difference between that $100 and the one that's got Children's Aid / Big Brothers Sisters Jumpstart? What's the difference?
Pat, are you able to speak to that one?
They're actually now somewhat of a blended organization. It's my understanding that the Big Brothers and Big Sisters are administering the Jumpstart program in our county. So I can't speak to how their entire budget works, but at my last meeting, that was my understanding. So we did not receive a request from the Jumpstart, is my understanding. I can't see up above, but I think that's what it was. So, you probably are donating to the same cause ultimately, unless someone else has any further information, except that the Jumpstart is used specifically for funding kids who want to participate in recreation. And Big Brothers Bowl-a-thon, I think, provides their generic funding. Is that correct? Yeah, so it's the same organization, two different streams of their community work.
Well, I'll just add that the Jumpstart primarily from the 2 Canadian Tire stores in Huron County. And that at different times they have certain products on that 50% of the money received for those products goes to the program for Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and helping kids where the families cannot afford the full registration fee for music lessons or sports and a number of other things like that. The Jumpstart is just what the Canadian Tire Corporation kicks in, which is a healthy amount.
So my question is though, with regards to this Jumpstart, is how much of this, if any, do we know would relate to individuals in the municipality?
Look at that.
Yeah, so they do track that and we get a lump sum. And in the past, it has far exceeded the $500 donation. There's also another new program being operated called YRAS, and it's another recreation and arts support program for children and families who cannot afford recreation and arts and culture programs. So we're very fortunate here in county to have access to many of these programs, and many families take advantage of them. So that's another program. They just received a really healthy grant, I want to say from United Way. So they haven't come requesting from this municipality yet. But the Jumpstart program, we do, the amount coming back to our municipality in participation and usership exceeds that donation. That answers
A
your
number
question.
of times.
Does,
I think it's somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 at least that, last time I reviewed that report.
James,
Being a foster parent a few years ago and working with Children's Aid, the children that were in Children's Aid did not suffer when it came to sports. Children's Aid covered all those costs. So I'm surprised that Children's Aid is part of this Jumpstart program. Because of this.
they have been for a long
I
time.
know they have been for a long time, but I know that they look after the children really quite well.
Trevor,
so based on the information that I'm willing to recommend, one, so the $500 annual, I would, because they haven't came here and requested it, I would earmark it open in the case where they come, but don't provide it specifically to them until they come and ask for it. And the $100 would be then not at all. So my recommendation is the bowl for kids' sake would be denied, and the $500 for the Jumpstart would be earmarked for them in case they come and request it, because they haven't requested it at this point.
Sorry, I just wanted to reply to Councillor James Campbell's comment. It's not just foster kids in children's aid. It could be a family with low income that have 5, 6, 7 children trying to put them into soccer. It doesn't have to be a child just in foster care. There's lots of families in need that are constantly applying for these funds to not only get their kids registered, to buy them equipment. And one of the programs even can help send them help with transportation for these children to get to the programs. So that's just to explain
I still question being involved with them.
Okay, so Trevor has made a recommendation.
Brock,
Sorry, did you have a?
I'm just suggesting, why not do the same thing with the $100 and leave it there pending a possible request?
No, they have
Yeah,
sent a
they have-
request for the
They have sent a
100.
request, then I'd leave it in. That's my.
Bill,
Just to kind of clarify that, if I understand that correctly, the Big Brothers Bowl, that is actually for ongoing Big Brothers Sisters programs that have nothing to do with Jumpstart.
It's bowling.
Jumpstart is a separate program completely in conjunction with Canadian Tire donations. So they've asked for their $100. I'd recommend we give them their $100. We'll agree, we'll budget the $500 for the Jumpstart. If they don't request it, they don't get it. But the $100 is for other Big Brother Sisters programs, so it's pretty minimal donation for the kids for those programs.
I agree.
Everybody agree with that then? So the 100 and the 500.
Yep.
Alright. Okay, so United Way, they came here last fall and did a big presentation to you on various programs, and they didn't, they left their program material that evening, but they didn't leave a specific amount. So that was a delegation from last fall during this donation process. And we had given them $500 a year before, and that was exactly the same with the North Huron Community Food Share. You had a presentation from them, and they left their materials after, but there was no specific dollar request, but you had previously given $500 to each of those. So do you have any response on those two?
Ray,
I'm gonna say go the same as last year for both of them.
I agree.
I agree.
Anybody else? Okay, so then the Clinton Public Hospital sponsorship gala. So they had a formal letter sent to you that was in your agenda package, and they were looking for any type of sponsorship which ranged from $200 to $5,000. And I think this is actually over now, isn't it?
you know Brock?
I think it's over.
So just, I suggest we just
Not very long ago.
Leave it?
just decline.
Okay, and then the building permit fee doesn't actually fall under this category, so we'll bring that one back to you at a later date. St. John's Ambulance sent you a formal letter for $500 request to support various St. John's programs. That was new.
What programs are they sponsoring?
I don't have any involvement with the St. John program, so
So it's nothing.
The letter.
So I would say no.
Okay. They list a bunch of programs, training programs with 3 main priorities: WSIB standard first aid training, for medical first responder, babysitting, and pet first aid courses. And then on-site first aid at community events and therapy dog programs who visit folks in long-term care.
I don't know a lot of the details, but a lot of those programs are offered by North Huron from another organization, and by the STC as well from another organization. So nothing against St. John, great organization, but we,
We're offering them.
yeah, we both offer those and apply through North Huron facilities out there.
Trevor?
So I will also tell you from knowing we had them at the, as part of the community for the homecoming, they request from the group when they do their event, they request a donation at that time equivalent to the time that they spend there. So in that sense, I know there's other programs there, but if we're offering the same programs within the municipality, but also they're getting them when they actually do the events, in my sense, it's really doubling the request. So that would, my recommendation would be no.
That an event, if the ones that we're budgeting for a particular event, they do it, but not us, in an overview at this time. Bill?
I'm going to agree. I know you've got different organizations that are providing the same first aid training programs and so on. And that St. John Ambulance are correct. They do ask for donations and we apply for their services when they provide them at events. There are some programs though that they don't receive any money for, that they do carry on. And they are kind of owners. I'll just say the therapy dog program. I actually have a dog. My wife has a dog, one of our dogs, in process to become a therapy dog right now, and they get no money for that. They go out to the various long-term care facilities and take the dogs out for the residents to, as therapy dogs. They provide them at other events as well for kids and different catastrophe events where they'll take the dogs in and so on. So there are programs that aren't being duplicated by anybody, and there is a big demand for that now. So the $500 I could say, but if we want to give at least a donation of $100 or $200, I think it would be worthwhile to help fund some of those programs.
What's council's flavor?
I'm taking that there's not enough support to have consensus.
No? Okay, we'll move on. The next one is a new donation request from an organization called Inspiring Women in Huron. And they also are looking for sponsorship. The event is over, and it was ranging from $500 up to $2,500, and it was hosted by the Women's Shelter.
So the fact that it's over, my recommendation would be to not do it at this time. But obviously for the 2017, let's make sure we earmark that a little sooner than to know that is I think it's a valuable program to have women in Huron County supported and provided for. So I agree with the request. It's just the fact that it's over. It's not really much sense of donating something that after it's over.
Okay. Well, everyone's in agreement with that then?
Suggest them send them the letter, a formal request letter, when you send them the notice that they're turning down their application for this year.
Okay, and then the last one on that list then was the new request from Godrich last week. The Godrich Legion about the Afghanistan Monument Committee. for $1,000.
Brock?
I would suggest not approving this. I think, I don't like the impression being given with this request that we aren't recognizing the Afghanistan veterans. I think we are, and I think we do that through our normal concern and interest and support for all veterans, for all wars. I think it's a nice thing to put up a display, but I think that's a local concern, and a lot of people, I'm sure, would individually contribute to this. I don't think it's appropriate for us to donate it through municipal funds.
Council in favor?
I'll especially for the gallery, I'll maybe add some more information. It's one of the light armored vehicles, which aren't very light. They're 22 tons. But there's 3 locations, 2 cities and Godrich Legion have applied for and been approved for these to be put in the communities as a monument, the same as the cannon over by the museum was put in there at one time. That I know that it's something that I believe the legions will probably carry it if they need to. It will happen. But and there's people out of the community here that have volunteered the crane service. I'm not sure that they're talking about if somebody volunteered the float to bring it from London to Godrich. There's some preparation by the county to have it on the corner of the museum, basically in a more prominent place than the tank was. That was back beside the museum. That's just more information.
I'm not denying the value of the display. I think it would be a very interesting one, and I just don't think that it's right for us to use our municipal funds to fund that.
I guess at the last council meeting, I was squared about and made a motion that was denied for the request for it. I think it's important, so I support it.
Want to vote on it?
Okay, all those in favor?
Well, no, well, not doing it. Is that what we're voting?
In favor of doing it is what I'm asking. Those opposed? Motion fails.
Okay, so of your so-called regular list then,
Just a sec, Donna.
yes?
Donna, we missed the rural talks to rural.
So that was 1,000 from we had authorized 1,000 with, I believe you were gonna talk to them about a further.
Oh, okay.
I'm
You've
sorry.
got 5,000 in here.
That was our first run at it, but last meeting they decide only 1,000. Okay.
Okay.
Could you please
Okay.
confirm that again? That's what I
I
had.
didn't recall that. Good.
Well, we didn't approve 1,000, we requested to find it with different sponsorship levels were, because there were various sponsorship levels, 5,000 being, I believe, the maximum event sponsor, not necessarily maximum, but a higher one. So did we ever get back a response to what the lower levels were?
So they've just responded back saying that they would certainly accept a reduced contribution from North Huron. They certainly would like North Huron to partner in the event as we're bringing people into the community and want to recognize us as a sponsor for the event as the host community. So their response back was, they would accept or be willing to reduce accept in 2,500 or 3,000. However, they will recognize in kind contributions towards that level of contribution, and our economic development officer is sitting on the committee as well, and we may be doing, other things to assist the group as they prepare for that event. So I just thought I'd let you know what their response back was.
Thank you, Sharon. So what's council's decision then?
So I guess my question is, if they're going to include the in-kind portion, what's the physical check that we're gonna write? Like, is that gonna be 500? Is it gonna be 2,000? If the physical check was gonna be $500, then fine. Like, but I don't know what that number is. Like, I don't know how much in-kind we're talking about here.
They haven't made a request for any services, in-kind services yet, have they? So we can't assess a value to them.
No. I don't know what happened prior to my coming here. I know that our ECDAV officer has been working with them on that committee. So I guess I'm looking for counsel as to what you've authorized.
We've already supported them through the use of the ECDAV office for whatever reason, and I'm sure there are probably some physical in-kind things with staff that will come about as a result of it. So we can give them 0.
Trevor and then Brock.
So the way our conversation is, I think my recommendation would be $1,000 in cash. Like $1,000, we write them a check for $1,000, and then basically the in-kind is to go no more than $1,500 more. So you want $2,500, you're getting $2,500, but you're getting in-kind of $1,500. Once that happens, it's over.
Brock.
I think this is a really important event for the community, the whole community. And it seems to be, I would be very embarrassed if we come across as cheapskates not willing to support it. I think cutting it down to $1,000 is the least we can do. And I know that we're in tough straits on the budget. I think for that reason, we have to do it, but to just say, no, we're not contributing anything would be an absolute insult and disgrace.
Trevor?
So I understand what Councillor Vaughn is saying in one sense. In the other sense, I have a question that we're supporting the Blythe Festival tourist booth. We got $2,000 for the Blythe Festival plus $4,700, so that's almost $6,000 of Blythe Festival. Which, in case, yes, this is part of the whole Blythe Festival, Memorial Hall, museum, rural talks, rural conversation. It's all amongst the whole thing. Like, at what point do we make the conversation that is, if pick your poison? What do you want? In my opinion, you can't have both. So, do you want to do rural talks to rural? Is that more important than the Blythe Festival tourist booth and the youth outreach program? That's my question to Councillor Vaughn.
So I have to respond to that. The festival contribution is in part an agreement that we have with them that they do promotion for then managing the Memorial Hall, and it's a very crucial economic development and cultural resource for the community. So I don't think we need to get into adding up the totals on one community. We should look at these on the basis of the need and the value to the community.
Bill?
Just to cover that a little bit to that for Trevor, the Blythe Festival Tourism Booth, basically, it should actually be called the North Huron Tourism Booth. They operate a tourist booth area within the Blythe Festival that promotes North Huron, William, and everything else, and that $1,000 is a contribution to them to staff it, to offset some of the staffing costs. So it's not really the Blythe Festival to us. but,
Plus the joint advertising.
That was covered somewhere else, I believe. The Youth Festival Outreach Program is an ongoing program of the Blythe Festival for the youth, so it's a worthwhile program.
Certainly it is council's decision as to the level of contribution that they wish to give financially. I do think that if we look at it as an event that is going to be attracting people from across the country and also internationally, that we are going to want to be involved as far as liaising with the group and being a good host community when we're bringing people in from afar. So we do that with the Alice Munro Festival. We do it with a number of events that we have, and I certainly think that we should be playing that role with this event as well. I think the theme of the event is very current in light of the challenges that we face as rural communities, and we're inviting people that represent rural communities across the country to come and discuss the challenges that they have and talk about innovative best practices on how to grow our rural communities. So I really would like to see the municipality involved in participating in this event, be it not financially or whatever level of financial support the council decides. I think it's a very important event for us to be involved in because of the theme. It's very relevant.
Thank you. So may I suggest $2,000?
No?
1,000 we went for last time.
1,000?
I would just say no
Yeah, I'm sure.
to the 1,000.
I see that our economic development, we just pulled $3,000 out of it for advertising, so. No, I'm not in favor.
Does anyone else have any further comments? Do you want to take a vote on that then to make a decision?
Any comments? I'll say for 1,000. Who all is in favor? Carried.
Okay, so we need to,
Is that
Sorry?
correct?
Are we not reviewing the ones at the top of the list?
this list now.
Oh, yes, okay. Right, okay.
Okay, so now we're going back to what I call the big list. So, those were the, less in dollar amounts. So what that has left you then, so that you've committed then 9,975, which leaves you 1,825 for anything that may come up through the year, which always does. So anyway, you have a little bit of money there, or you may choose not to reallocate it. Okay, so to go back to these donations in front of you here. So last meeting then, what had happened was we changed the budget to include $65,000 for the hospital, $7,500 for building bridges, $5,000 for the Blythe BIA marketing, $1,000 for the R2R, and $1,000 for the golf club, and the $11,800 that we've just been through. So that is a total of and that other $1,000 for the Afghanistan was included in there. So the total budget is at that time was $92,300. So is it prudent to go back through this list one by one, or would someone like to? Okay, so one by one. So let's start at the top again then. So the hospital donation. So your proposal was $65,000 per year for 7 years, which equaled $455,000. So does anyone have any comments on that in light of the letters you have received? I'm not sure if you've received comments from the public as well.
Well, I've received a number of comments. And I think the hospital is probably the most important asset that we have. A number of people come here because there's a hospital. And if we're going to try and attract any industry, having a hospital in town is paramount. But I'll quote one of the questions, or that I was given. What pot of gold did you find? And that, unfortunately, I think looking at levels of counties and lower tier, I think at least half of the money should come from the community at large, from those that have valued the hospital in using the hospital. I know that my wife and I looked carefully at how big a donation we can give, and that it had been suggested to me that 50,000 for either 5 or 6 years would be more appropriate to the taxpayers. Brock?
I don't think the request is reasonable at all. I don't think that as a municipality, we are responsible for funding the hospital. There's no denying the importance of a hospital in the community, but there's nothing to me that says the municipality needs to support it. We aren't a health service. We aren't a health service. We have all kinds of municipal responsibilities that we can't fulfill to start with. And so why would we be forking over money for a totally different cause that should be raised in another way? That's a whole different stream of donations and requests and services. It's not municipal. We are municipal, just municipal. And so I say not a cent should go to this program, and that applies to some of the other large requests that we've received. I think it was irresponsible for us to turn that amount of money, or even a fraction of it, over to a cause like that, important as it is. I'm not denying the importance of the hospital. I just say that there's no rule that says that we have to pay for it.
Bill?
I'd like to start off by commenting that I'd like to thank Dave Tiffin for his letter from the Wingham BIA and the fact that the Wingham BIA discussed it before they sent a letter saying they were in charge of it. I'm going to point out, however, that the letter from the Blythe BIA was not discussed by the BIA, by the Board of Managers, and that Mr. Elliott sent us without discussion. So I cannot say that it actually represents the feelings of the BIA in general. That being said, I've received comments that have been mixed both for and against these donations. I said at the last meeting that in many regards I agree that there is no way that we should be having in our society funding of hospitals or schools, that is done through the school boards and through our school taxation, and that their failure not to fund them properly should not be our responsibility as a municipality. At the same time, I have the issue that, especially in the case of the hospital, that it is a critical part of our community and our infrastructure. And from an economic development standpoint, with the oncology and so on that will be done there and the cancer treatment that is being suggested, it will bring people from outside our community to Wingham or to North Huron who would not necessarily come. They would go to London or some other location. So there is some economic value to making sure that the project does go forward and does get completed. How much money we are prepared to put forward, I think, is a matter that we really have to discuss. We toned it down to the 65,000, but maybe we're just going farther out than we should, and that we should maybe look for a more reasonable level of funding that we can afford, which is zero, but quite literally. Due to past circumstance, we find ourselves in a position of being a very expensive municipality to maintain. I don't really see how we're going to pull ourselves out of that in the very near future, but we have to make these decisions today. I don't know what that level is, but I do believe that we should be putting forth something towards the hospital. The playground, I think, is an issue where I said again that I believe we should actually have our school trustees standing here in front of us trying to explain to us why we as a municipality are putting forth money to install playground equipment and playgrounds on school property. And we are receiving nothing in return. As Ms. Nuisance pointed out, that we do not get money from them to improve or to fix the roof at the West Cats complex, even though the schools use it as part of their programs. So why are we investing money in their school grounds? Okay. So there, I have a very, unfortunately, I have a very easy time saying no. The hospital, I have a tough time with that one.
I don't base the argument on the amount of the donation. I think the basis of it is the principle of separation of the health system from the municipal. And for that reason, I don't think we should be making any donation. I think to make half wrong is no better than making it totally wrong. But I agree with totally with the councillor not on the bridges donation, which to me is a clear example of responsibility of the school board being foisted off on the municipality. I really feel for the people who are working hard on that project. It's unfortunate that they have to go through all this fundraising and so on, but it's not up to us to take money out of the taxpayer's pocket to pay for that should be already covered in their school costs.
Yolanda?
I think that the hospital is a really strong economic driver in our community, and it's important to recognize that. But I also agree that if we have $65,000 a year sitting around, it should be going into infrastructure. And the hospital and the school playground equipment, they're both really valuable causes, and it should be up to the individual people of our community to help fund those, not up to our council.
I guess as the building of bridges, I'm not in favor of the donation there because I'm going on with Councillor Bodden on that. I definitely want to support the Wingham Hospital. I've had some feedback from the last meeting, and yeah, it appears that it is a little rich. And I don't know, giving $455,000, if that would defer people, taxpayers in the township from giving more support as individuals. So I'm definitely in favor of supporting the hospital, some amount. Just having a problem. What amount?
Sure.
If I could make a suggestion, I know we have our agenda set out that we have our public comment session following this debate. However, council did mention at the last meeting that they spoke about the donation and they kind of struggled with the amount, and they said that they wanted to hope to be able to receive some public feedback into their decision. And I think we do have a number of people in the gallery this evening, and it might be worthwhile for council to hear from them before they debate this any further. The hospital has made their presentation to council, and I'm just suggesting that we bump forward in the agenda to hear the public gallery before you debate this
That's a good idea.
further.
So if somebody wants to speak, move towards the podium. Doug, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm actually here as a representative of the Wingham BIA. I serve as the chairman of the BIA just recently. And you've received a letter from the Wingham BIA, and the BIA is basically opposed to the township taxes being used to make donations. Plain and simple. We're just opposed to township taxes being used to make donations. Just an observation as I was sitting here in the gallery watching this, the amount of town council time that was spent over $100 and $500 and $1,000 donations, and you're working with a multi-million-dollar budget, and you're spending all this time on $100 checks. I make $100 donations at the door to people that come to my door. Like, you shouldn't be involved with this at all. Donations are made by businesses and individuals. Businesses and individuals make donations from surplus. No surplus, no donations. It's simple. Like, if you haven't got the money to give away, you don't give it. If you're making a surplus, by all means, and I totally support individuals, businesses, and churches giving money away, all kinds of money away to worthy causes. But do our township taxes go to donations? Does, when we have such a deficit in infrastructure? Municipal taxes are to go to infrastructure, buildings, snow removal, municipal programs, that kind of thing. If you walk out the front door of this town council, of this town hall, and you look across the street, all the windows need to be painted on that building across the road for years. The front door is rusting. People that come into that museum to pull the door open, look at a rusted out door jamb. You turn around, you look at this building, it looks fantastic, all right? The tower is secure, the front looks gorgeous, but walk to the sides, they haven't been touched or painted yet, right? And then continue walking on to Edward Street. Walk up and down Edward Street. It's way overdue for replacement. And that's just within a small walk of this tiny thing. And then upstairs, I'm on a committee raising $120,000, and we came to council and said, we're not going to ask the taxpayers for a single cent. We're going to go raise this money without asking the taxpayers of this town to pay for it, but individuals and businesses and grants. And we're getting there. It's taken a while, but we're getting there. We're at $55,000. And you're talking about $100 and $5 donations around here, and you're spending all your time doing this. So the township of North Huron does not have surplus funds to give away. It's plain and simple. You don't have it. It's time to draw the line. No surplus, no donations, no discounts. Right? And so, yeah, that's basically where I'm at. And where do you stop? Blythe BIA marketing position, $5,000. Guess what the discussion is amongst the BIA executive Wingham? Well, if Blythe gets it, we'll apply for $5,000. There's no end to it. There is no end to this. We thought we had to live off of our BIA levies, right? Oh, but now you're going to give us more money just because we ask? So, you just start giving that away, and there's just, and some of these places that you're talking about, just send out letters to all councils asking for money. You can't give away money that you don't have. Okay, that's what I'm done. Look.
Can we address the question? At this point in time?
You want to ask one?
I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to ask this right up front. Do you feel as a business owner yourself, and a member of the BIA in Wingham, from what you're saying, that we've already made commitments for other projects. And so you bring up the town hall theater here. Should we then withdraw our $500,000 commitment from the 14-19 renovation project in July?
What's done is done. I'm talking about drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is it going forward. You have commitments that you've made in the past. I'm not looking to change that, but I'm just saying, stop and think about it. Whose money you're giving away? Like, what are these, and why spend all this council time over $100 and $500 amounts? Just like, it's easy if you say, no, this isn't our, we can't give donations. We're not a charity. Then that ends all that discussion and all those debates and all the little lines and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, you spent tons of time in this meeting on $11,000 and you got millions of dollars on the overall budget. So
another part of my question then will be, we support an airport, which is not really truly a part of the infrastructure or necessity within this municipality.
I think you're taking outside the scope.
No, I'm not, because quite frankly, if we were to close that airport. and cease
I
to
think
operate,
you're
we would now be
expanding.
at
And I'm not really, that's your
Beyond-
job, okay, that's your, I'm
Just
just giving
scope
you
of this
direction
meeting.
on the whole issue of donations with money that is not surplus. Thank you.
Good evening, council. I'm here because in East Walnut Ward, we have to drive on roads that are so dangerous. My name is Doreen Taylor, and I live on one of those pothole roads that are there all year long. If an ambulance came down our road, there'd be more than one fatality. I mean it. We have just spent a considerable amount of time, and we've talked to over 100, personally talked to them, residents of East Walnut Ward. If you heard those people, you would not believe it. They say to us, where is our taxpayer dollars going? How can they donate all this money? What is wrong with this picture? They want to know how much money you have in your budget for 2016 for road repair, not just maintenance. No. Road repair. How much money have you given East Walnut Ward? I thank you.
Other people, Rick?
Thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening, and I respectfully follow my colleague from Wingham BIA in his sentiments. I appreciate Councillor not identifying me in his comments. And Bill, when we asked for your report, you told us the only thing that was going on in the Wingham Council was that Brock was against closing, or was for all the arenas being closed. That's what your report was to us. So the executive discusses this after and says, "Are you kidding me? This is month after month. That's what we get." Shame on you.
Shame on you for the lie.
So I did not lie.
Just
No, I didn't.
Anyway,
report to the
Anyway.
whole room.
The fact of the matter is that after the meeting, the report was made, there was no comments on it. The executive, and there's been property owners that talked to me, and it's just basically same comment as what the donation, the big donation request. Our infrastructure is crumbling in North Huron. Doesn't matter what municipality, but Blythe Ward, East Walnut Ward, Wingham Ward, we've had examples all over. The fact that these causes are very important to our communities is no question. Where the funds come from is a question. We've got the Westmoreland Street drain that is on the list of repairs, and that's great, but that's been going on for 40 years. And roads, we've been looking for road repairs. Well, I was corrected. I thought it was since amalgamation, but there has been some road repairs in the early 2000s since amalgamation, but there hasn't been very much in the past 10 to 15 years. So respectfully, the property tax dollars, we need to make sure that they go into building or rebuilding our existing infrastructure, and that includes Blythe Memorial Hall, which is an asset of the municipality. And I thank you very much for your opportunity to speak.
Others interested in making comment this time?
I'm Bernie Bailey with the Hospital Foundation. I'm the one that requested the money for our hospitals. I'd like to start by addressing the BIA's concerns. The BIA's have a tax levy on the main streets and the people who want to be involved. I know because I paid when I was your representative. Not understanding why you don't want to keep our town solid. Speaking of North Huron, so let's go through a few things. First of all, we need the hospital. I think we all realize it's an economic driver. We need to spend the money on it. So we're sitting in a situation where we need to upgrade. The province has given us $6 million. It's, I believe, a $16 million project. As I've talked to you folks, right now, I believe we're sitting at $2 million in contributions from local people, local companies. There's a lady. She could live in St. Helens, Wayne, Blythe. She could live in Teeswater. She could live in Clinton. What we're building up there is a bit of a cancer clinic too, and as you know, the new thing. So you guys don't want to support the local hospital. First of all, let's go back to the province. The province is going to give you X amount of money. They don't care if your hospital is open or not. They gave us $6 million. They don't care because there's not enough votes here. They're going to spend $50 million down in Windsor. They don't care about you guys. So we got to do this in-house. So they have donated $6 million. We have to come up with the rest. So this lady, whether she lives in Whitechurch or she lives in Teeswater or whatever, she has to go and she has to see somebody for chemo, which you can do in the Wingham Hospital. We're not going to help the Wingham Hospital, though. We want to help it as a society anymore. So she's going to go to London. She's going to go to Stratford. You know what? She's going to go to One Sound because that's where she has to go. To the BIAs. When she's there, she will buy a dress. She will buy gas. She will do everything she wants to do, no matter what city you go to. And she's going to come back and drive right through Blythe and right through Wingham. Nothing is going to be spent. But with the new program we're putting together and the new issue up there, that person, they may stop in Blythe at the theater after just say taking this little trip, rather than driving all the way to Kitchener and being tired coming home. She's going to shop on the main street of Wingham. She's going to have dinner here. She is going to put money into our community, and she may take her grandchildren with her because it's a long trip. We are going to keep the people here. It's called economic development. Or don't help us out, and they can go to Stratford. They can go to Barry. Was it for your hips? Was it Neil?
It was Owen Sound.
Owen Sound. My mother was Kitchener. Let's send them all away. Because remember, the government's only going to give you so much money, just like the tax, gas tax. Right, Donna? And they'll just keep taking, and they'll keep taking. And if we don't support ourselves, we're not going to have a hospital in 25 years. It's not the legacy we want to leave our town. We need the hospital because the hospital will bring people to North Huron. The people can stay in North Huron and they can shop in North Huron on the main street of Wingham, on the main street of Blythe. This is what you need. And it is a healthy ticket to have to help out with. And we appreciate everybody's help. But none of us are getting any younger. And I can speak for myself. I have to make that trip once in a while. My mother has to make that trip once in a while. probably everybody in this room is. I know there are people sitting on council that say, we go to Clinton. I know there's a guy sitting on council that said he can't get a doctor here. Well, we're gonna make room for 2 more doctors. And we're making room for more specialists. And we're making a one-stop visit. So you don't have to drive all over Huron County if you have a knee or a heart or anything else done, anything taken care of. You can come here to this little place up here, and we're gonna take care of everything in one shot. You can get your drugs there. You can see all your specialists there. You can see your regular doctor there. This is the future. This is our future. If you really want to talk economic development, God knows you guys don't want to get me on this again. You need the hospital. It's a main driver. You need the community center. You need these things to happen. Or within 10 years, we can shut the hospital down and we can all drive to Kitchener in the back of an ambulance like my mom had to do. They need $55 million to upgrade the one in King Card, and they can't get the money. This community, all of this community have got behind this hospital, including your Reed. And he's given his personal money to keep this hospital here. Because I will guarantee you that your representatives that go to Queen's Park and go to Ottawa don't care. Because they're too busy building a $265,000 million hospital in Windsor. If we want to keep ourselves viable, we need to support the hospital. I am a volunteer at the hospital, many volunteers at the hospital. And I really believe this town council needs to stick with the $450,000. In Blythe, we put $500,000 towards the Memorial Hall. Something happens, God forbid, we need that hospital and their help. I stood behind that, and I'm still standing behind that. I stood behind the BIAs, and I caught a lot of hell from certain people on the main street that do not want to belong to the BIAs. I'm still standing behind you guys. It's a good thing. We need the hospital, and we need to realize that Queen's Park and Ottawa are not going to give us millions of dollars because we do not have enough votes here. They can get 16,000 votes, so we give them in Huron County in one little apartment in Toronto. Where do you think the money's going to go? And more and more and more is going to go there. We have to stick up for ourselves. So I call you guys. I really beg you guys, stick with the $465,000 or $450,000. These are the decisions you guys are going to make. They will remember 50 years from today because that hospital is probably still going to be there. If you don't make these decisions, I will guarantee you Ottawa and Queen's Park aren't going to. You guys don't have enough votes. There's apartment buildings in Toronto with more people than there are in Huron County. So we need to stand up. And your community so far has given over $2 million towards it, as I believe you're talking about. They are standing behind it. So please, stay with the amount you've set. It is what our society is about. It will bring the new jobs when we finally, Morris Turnberry, North Huron, have our economic development set up and going. It is a very strong mover for that. And we do need your help, and we need your help this year. We're not coming back every year. We're not coming back every 5 years. Some parts of that hospital have not been renovated since 1950, which is almost as old as me. So please, stay with the amount, support your hospital, because your hospital is bringing the people to the restaurants, to the theaters, to the new brewery, to buy a royal home or look at them, to build them in another place. They're coming to this town. Please stay with us on the 450. I know it's a tough decision, guys. Thank you.
James. I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to keep quiet here. My wife went through cancer treatment. And when she was in London for the treatment, they said, if possible, we'll give you a treatment that you can have done in Wingwood. It's not a 15-minute stop. It's a 3-hour stop when you go to the hospital for your teeth. By the time you have your blood all checked and everything all worked out, it's a 3-hour stop. We really appreciated them in London working things out. She would go every day for 10 days Then she would miss 10 days, and then she would go again, as long as her blood was high enough to have treatment. And we really appreciate Wingham. They work with us. If we don't doctor here, we doctor in Seaforth. Because we can't find a doctor here, that's who he was talking about. But I do support the hospital. I think it's the backbone of our community. It's something we need. If it's an emergency, I would like to be able to drive to Wingham for that. And I know they're not going to kick me out of the emerge if we walked in. It's something that we need, and you don't need it until you need it. I don't know the figure, but I know it's something we have to keep in the community. If we don't, it'll be gone. When they started the cancer treatment in Wingham, it was almost a goner. The Wingham Hospital was almost a goner when they started that. And this is one of the things that's kept Wingham alive. Thank you.
Brock?
I don't think there's any question about the importance of the hospital. That's not the question. The hospital in any community is very, very important. The hospital is already here. The hospital is not going to go away tomorrow. It's here. The question is, if we need to spend $450,000 on it, we don't have that money. So we're going to have to mortgage ourselves to pay that. So why does the hospital make its own mortgage? I mean, why that should not come from the municipal taxpayer. And I'm saying, on principle, it doesn't make sense for us to fund the hospital. And cutting down the amount from whatever the original request was doesn't solve the problem. If it's wrong to donate the whole thing, then it's equally wrong to donate half of it or a quarter of it and so on. So I'm just opposed to this. I don't think we can commit our taxpayers to a huge, huge debt like this, and we just don't have the money.
Well, I'll go back to what was suggested to me, at possibly 50,000, which is just over 1%, debt, what, 1.15 or something. That 50,000 a year, and have it either 5 or 6 years as to what. So it would be 250 or 300,000, but that it would definitely be one of those things. And I see this as one of the things that can carry the hospital. Probably with this renovation, it'll probably be there towards the rest of my life. If we don't, I agree with Bernie. There's a good chance we will lose it within the next 10 years. Currently, we have 3 doctors that do emerge work. We have to have people finding doctors to cover the emergency department the rest of the time. And that is something that if we can strengthen it and revitalize it, I think there's a good chance of maybe picking up those 2 or 3 extra doctors. Because if we get 1 or 2 doctors, I know there's 2 of the current doctors that we have are looking at moving into retirement. They would like to cut back so that while it isn't a mandated service, if you don't support it, we probably won't have it. Doug?
It's very easy to get painted as though we're opposed to the hospital, okay? It's very easy to get painted, and there are very many emotional arguments as well. And I totally agree with them all. But whether you're talking $500,000 or $250,000, do you not think there's somebody out there who has been treated for cancer or some sort of thing that wouldn't bequeath $250,000, just like that, that hasn't sold a farm that could say, I'll give $500,000, because I think that hospital is important, okay? And so it's where's this fund gonna come from? We all agree that it's important, but does it need to be the taxes of the town that are used to accomplish this $250,000 or $500,000? I totally support it, and, but there are other ways of getting the funding than just simply asking the taxpayers to pay for increased taxes. Like, somebody's gonna have to mortgage it, or somebody's gonna have to donate it. And so why does the town have to mortgage it? And the town does support the hospital. It's not that we're opposed to it. And the town has helped out. I read in the paper, the town helped out with the hospital acquiring the
Well,
school. The Wingham Public School. Like, we do what we can, but we don't have cash to give away. Like, you just don't have it, so you can't just go give it. Or, like, you're just simply gonna be asking it to be borrowed. So I'm totally supported. I don't want to be painted as somebody that is opposed to it. I'm speaking now on my own, okay? I'm not speaking on behalf of the BIA. So, and Royal has made a commitment to a donation towards it, and other businesses, and if things go well, there can be more donations made to it. But the source of where it comes from, I believe, if you look around, you can find the money. You don't just have to ask the town for it. Sorry.
Brock?
I'd just like to point out that I will not be approving this budget as long as this item remains in the budget of any amount.
Okay, well, we do need to move forward, and we do need to make a decision. So, time is running out. I'm not sure, we were hoping to have this decision made tonight so that we could pass our budget next week. So I'm not sure if council's in a feeling position that we can go through this list again and either, have one final pass at it and vote on each one of the items, or whether you want to hold it off one more week until April the 18th, and then have a session before the council meeting.
Ray?
I think we're going to have another meeting on this one. And also what Mrs. Taylor has brought up tonight too. As before, when we had a council meeting, I said that I was not supporting the budget if the East Wanash Ward, and I'm not trying to tear North Huron apart at all. I sit here and I pass lots of stuff for them. But when I see that there's only $15,000 of capital being spent in the East Wanash Ward to take a set of fuel tanks out, and our roads are deplorable, I can't vote to pass this budget either, unless there's further discussion. I think there was concerns. Mrs. Taylor and her husband approached me. I think they've got a lot of support out there, and they are coming back to our next council meeting. I got phone calls after phone calls, and I got one just before I left tonight. And so that's how I'm sitting right now. I think we're going to have another meeting somewhere down the line before this budget can be passed. I'll be voting no on this budget.
So what sort of research or what sort of other information, so take one piece at a time, on these donations, is there more information? Like, I'm not sure what further information staff can provide you with on this list. It's really up to council to make a decision on each one of these, so that we can move this particular topic forward.
Bill?
I think at this time we pretty much, do we have a consensus to remove the building bridges? Yes. Do we remove that? Do we have consensus on that? Which, okay, so we take that in. Wingham Golf and Curling Club, on the basis of what everybody's saying, I can't justify giving them $1,000. So it's, we didn't even talk about that. I think we should take that one.
Okay, and the R2R, then you've agreed on that one for 1,000.
Sorry.
I think if we need another meeting, we need another meeting. And these topics have been aired fairly well. And I expect everybody on council will, if they haven't been notified how people feel about it, they definitely will before another week happens anyway. So that I think I'm saying, sorry, Donna, I don't think we can finish some of this up, Sharon.
That's fine.
Yeah, we are gonna need some direction, so I guess we can put some draft motions together based on some of the discussion we had, but as far as some of the larger donations, like the hospital, we really don't have any firm direction from council. So we can certainly bring back what information we have, and I think council's gonna have some debate.
Trevor, did you have something?
Yeah, I just have a comment on the overall budget. So I've talked about this in the past. We've talked about it with our service requests, our service reports. But I think ultimately, I ask the people that are in this room and the people that are listening on the web and all that other stuff. We have 48 departments in North Huron. What services do we need and what services do we want? Because at the end of the day, regardless of any donations, all that away, you take it away, you're still gonna have high taxes. You're still gonna have them, unless we can find 5,000 people to build somewhere. We are gonna have that, so we're gonna have high taxes. So the conversation boils down to it. Whether it be 500,000 for whatever we give, or whatever we spend on capital in East Walmarsh Ward or the Blythe Hall, what services do we need? And I ask ratepayers to comment to that on when as a counselor, because my demographic is a little different than the demographic that's sitting in the audience tonight. The conversation for me as a counselor is, what are the needs? My needs are different than the ratepayers that I see out there in the gallery. I want to get a sense of what that is for the whole demographic for the municipality. I do. The problem is we don't hear it. The only time we hear it is when somebody comes and asks us for money and somebody says, well, we don't have that money. Tell me what we need. And I can help with trying to figure out, as part of this council, what we really need to keep this municipality thriving. Because there is no amount of money that we can give away or mortgage or whatever, it's not going to change. Our taxes are still going to be high. And there's no mistake about that until we figure out what services we don't need anymore. So that's the question I have to ratepayers out there. And send me an email, send me a call, let me know. The problem is we don't know as council, we don't get a lot of information until stuff like this comes on the board, and then we get all hell breaks loose. We need more from the ratepayers to know what information is valuable, and not only the ones that are the bad. We need the good too. So that's what I asked the ratepayers tonight. The ones in the gallery and the ones that are listening, and the people you're going to talk to when you leave here. Because those are the important questions we need to be asking ourselves, not only for this budget, but the 4 budgets from now and the 15 budgets from now too.
We need safe roads.
Gotcha.
What's going to save your life, the hospital or the town hall and life, if you're sick? You better stop and think twice before you make your decision.
We've got a
You'll kill your
$3.3 million
town if you don't have
donation to help us with that, and we're going to use it well.
Just a sec. So, we'll go back. Donna, how do you see proceeding?
Well, I think we still need to have this list solved. So at this point then, we still in at the moment is the 65,000 for the hospital. Building bridges is out. I didn't hear direction on the BIA position. R2R is still in at 1,000 and the golf club is out and the Afghanistan monument is out. So we still need your decision then for next meeting on the hospital, the BIA position, and the R2R. But that was carried actually. Was there a motion on that? Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was informal.
BIA.
The R2R.
Yeah.
No.
No, what? No, but yes, it's in. Yes, okay.
I would like to see formal motions on all of those.
Yes.
So that we can bring that back for the next meeting and, you know, have a formal direction from council.
Yes.
But it's the other three that we need.
Yolanda?
In regards to the Blythe BAA, I think that it would be best if Blythe and William got together and looked at 2017 and working together and finding a way that they could find a marketing partner via their levies and using that money to go forward and look at the possibility of hiring a university student to come down and do marketing promotion. But I don't think that giving them $5,000 this year is futile.
It's not true.
Speak.
Sorry.
So I have had an opportunity to talk to the chair of the Blythe BIA, and we have come to that consensus that we are going to remove it this year.
Okay.
And agreed that I think there is opportunity to look at either partnerships, and we've said that we're going to be looking at our economic development program over this next year. And I attended the BIA executive meeting in Wingham, and also as I said, met with the Blythe BIA, and I think that we're going to be obtaining feedback from the business community, from the BIA over the next year on our economic development program and how we can serve them as BIAs and how we can market the assets that we do have in this community, because, you know, as we're hearing tonight, we own a lot of things and we need to really start maximizing the use of those things. And not only do we need to reduce our expenditures, but we also need to find ways to increase our revenues as well. So I think that we can work with those two organizations to come up with a plan in 2017.
Okay, so then that just leaves then the hospital donation back on the table as the only one for discussion for next meeting. So is there anything else then in regard to donations?
Oh, yeah, okay.
So is there anything else then? As I said, we're near the finish line on this budget, but if there's something else we're supposed to be having a look at that we need to know now as direction from council as to what further research for next meeting that we need.
Brock?
Just a small point. I think the word donations is misleading in some cases. I am quite prepared to suggest that we never give any donations. But I'm saying that there are things like the Rural Talks or Rural, where it's not really a donation, it's a program that's going to draw people, as Sharon said, from far and wide, and it's a great component for the whole municipality. It just happens to be in Blythe. So I think we have to have another category of funding where it makes sense to support it. Like it's programmatic, it's part of our mission as a municipality, and that's what we're supporting. It's not some outside organization that's asking us for support.
Right. And in light of that, actually this category is actually called community partnership. So that's, in light of all your comments, that's what we've always called it. But when it comes right down to it, it is a check most times being written, so. Okay, so for next meeting, we do, sorry, Ray, what were you gonna
I
say?
just, no, we gotta do some research on what I talked about too before our next meeting.
Okay, you
on the
have to be
rules
very
department. I don't want
clear
this up
what
done
that
the fridge
is.
one anymore. I've
Right,
been
well,
pounding this drum for 4 years now.
okay, so you need to give clear direction right now then, and bring it out to council for them to agree or disagree with you. And tell clearly what it is and what dollars and what things you're looking at, so that we can, council can,
With the help of staff, yes, I will, and I'll have it for the next meeting.
well, we need to have some direction though tonight so that we know what that would be. Like, we're still
Well,
hoping to
the
move forward.
basic thing is increase the funding for capital projects in the East Wabash Ward for their roads. We've got the people here tonight. That's what it is. And there'll be more next week, guaranteed. So whatever we have to come together with, or who all I have to meet with,
Sure,
you know,
great.
So, I think what we can bring to you for the next meeting is, what the maintenance plan is going to be for East Walnut, and we can talk to the director to see if we can bring that back, and that's certainly gonna be, some information that the delegation is going to wanna hear. But we have been speaking over the past year, about our infrastructure. And I want the public to know here that this is a conversation that has been ongoing. And we recognize the fact that we need to do better. We need to have a plan in place as to how we're going to prioritize our projects and how we're going to fund those projects. Right now, our asset management plan addresses only our core infrastructure, and we still need to do some work to update that and get a plan in place so that we know what our top priority projects are and make sure that we're starting to put money away in reserve to address those top priorities. Our core infrastructure is vital. Those are our economic drivers as well. The roads that bring goods and services and people in and out of our municipality, and people travel on them to work every day. Our water and sewer assets that allow us to sustain our current businesses and develop and attract new businesses to our municipalities. We really need to focus in investing in those assets. And so we have committed, we have money in this budget to update our roads needs study, which will prioritize our roads needs. And we can address that by then putting a funding plan in place for those. We're going to be looking at doing condition assessment on our water and sewer infrastructure. Again, being able to prioritize those projects, and then also looking at bringing our facilities into the plan, because what council has talked about is the fact that we own a lot of things, and that is why we have high taxes. So when we can start to really quantify what that infrastructure deficit is on our facilities, how much money do we need to be putting away to sustain all of these things that we have, we're going to be faced with some really tough decisions at that point. But we need that information in front of us to be able to make those informed decisions. And we're committed as a staff to putting that plan in place for council in 2016. So we maybe don't have all the answers right now, but we're going to work on it and get that information in front of council because it's vital for our survival.
Ron?
I think it's very important that we lighten the mood of the evening and point out that in the works right now, our staff have worked together valiantly, put together a plan for coordinating our public works program with Morris Turnberry, a process that's going to significantly improve the output and the effectiveness of our public works program, and plus some other programs as well. And at the same time, over 10 years, it's going to save an awful lot of money, a huge amount of money, which will do an awful lot for the maintenance of our infrastructure and keeping our infrastructure up to date. So there is a maybe, I'm not sure a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but there are some very, very hopeful signs. And we have to give our staff credit for the tremendous thinking that they've done in terms of coming up with a new structure and sharing resources and sharing people, sharing resources with Morris Turnberry. And we're working together very, very closely. And I think that's a tremendous thing that's going to pay off over the next few years.
Dave? I think you may be right, Brock. Don't want to get shot for this, but I'm not sure that you have a money problem with our roads. I think you have a management problem. We've got more machinery now than we've ever had before. We've got the same number of roads. What in blazes is wrong? Why are the roads such terrible shape? And I don't mean just this year, but last year, the year before, it's consistently been terrible roads. And I can't understand it because we've got the same number of roads, the machinery's there. What is wrong? And if I can assess it right, it's management. And I think management should do a better job than what they're doing. That way we don't have to send them.
So what else do you have done?
Well, I guess we're still looking for what sort of direction for next meeting then are you supplying? Because we're not clear. Do you want to, like, what type of project or what is it in general, Ray, to get this budget passed? What direction are you giving or asking council to consider for next meeting?
Well, we started out with what I thought had a program on the road with tire and chip, which meant construct a piece of road, block a road 1 year, wherever. You're not going to suit everybody. Reconstructed, tire and chip it the next year. Reconstruct, tire and chip the next year. Take any road, whatever we have to have. Because we got to realize that on our roads, and I don't know how much the rest of the council travel these back roads in this, condition, but our roads are not 12 tons anymore. Our loads are 40 to 45 tons on these roads anymore. So, I mean, we have to get some sort of construction. There has to be a plan. There is no plan.
Right, and sharing this.
Now, we're doing a needs study, okay? And we're splitting that between the 3 wards for $19,000 to tell us what we should be doing. Maybe if we put some more money in this budget for that, Kelly can come up with a project that he could do. Last year, we had the money in the budget to do another piece of road. What happened? It was pulled out. See, and we can't keep on going like this. To look to the future, our aggregates, we're depleting them every year by putting maintenance gravel on. And they're not renewable.
So what type of money would you like to see added back into the budget then? Is that what you're requesting or for research?
Well, I think we're going to have to do or a construction program for this year.
So again,
Of some sort.
what sort of tax increase then would you like to see? As I said, we're sitting at 4.86 at the moment. We're gonna take a few things out. But at 1%, be adding $45,000. I guess I'm just trying to get direction from you as to what you would like to see. How many more percentage increase would you like to see added back in for another project?
1%, 2%, whatever it takes to do a project, but let's do something. Let's get something started. I can't just put an actual figure on what it is, but if it's to reconstruct a block of road, we've got an estimate. Get an estimate and put it in. We've got to start somewhere. I'm getting sick of it being swept under the fridge every year. And you know, Donna, this is what happens. We all know that.
So I guess I'm looking for direction from council. Are you willing to add another 2.5% into this budget in order to be able to take on another project? Is that?
Ask council.
I understand where Ray's coming from, and he's right, we do have to look at the roads. I've driven some of those roads, and they're in horrible shape and need to be repaired, whether we try and chip them this year, but they need to be rebuilt in areas. Problem is going to be is we need to go back and find that money somewhere else. So we can't just slap $100,000 on here and then what's that going to do? That's going to push you up to another 5.5%. Unacceptable. So we've got to go back and find it. I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into the works right now because we're going to go back to something that we talked about before, and that's our sidewalk clearing policy. And I think what we need to do is go back and say, I've never lived in another municipality where I wasn't required to shovel the sidewalk in front of my house. So I think that's something we have to go and look at. How much is that costing us? And let's take that money. If it's $50,000 we save in the Blythe and William wards, then we'll put that towards the roads. But we have to find areas that actually are essential. We don't need to keep padding.
I think that is maybe a larger subject than we want to touch with tonight. Yes, it probably has to come out of someplace. And I'm not sure what the answer is. I'm not sure what can be maintenance and what has to be rebuilt. Because I'm seeing way too many orange cones beside the roads where the sides have been gouged out, water's run through the side of the road, and we have major things that have went wrong in the last 3 years. I'm not seeing us come to a real consensus on this. I believe I have some new information that I will take to council in the in-camera. That may have a big difference on how we look at the whole budget. Remember.
My question is, obviously there's lots of capital in for the other wards, and I understand that. And I understand your concern in the East Walnut ward, because I've driven those roads, they're not the greatest. What the question is though, for me, is that the needs study is going to tell us the priorities of our roads. Would it suffice? Obviously, we need to get those roads back to maintain to be able to travel them safely. I don't know what the priorities looks like going forward, and I think this needs study is going to help us determine that. But I think the conversation for me is, if you look at the capital infrastructure we're putting into the other wards in this particular year, we need to look at in the future year, in 17 or whatever, putting more money into those roads in the East Walnut ward. I think that's got to be fair. That's equitable. But I think we can't. The conversation today is not where do we put $100,000 into a 5% budget, because I think that's why everybody's here now, because it's 5% increase, not necessarily because of the donation. But again, the conversation needs to be, if operating is not, capital is not the place to solve our budget problems. Operating is the issue. Operating is the place where we need to figure out issues. So I'm committed to figuring out that, and that's what to me, that's what this road needs study tells me. And if that tells me in this road needs study that East Walnut ward is the main driver for this funds, then that's where the funds need to go. But I'm not willing to change this budget on information that I don't know. I don't know what the priority is.
Trevor, you're saying that capital is not thing to do, but when I look at a ward that's getting $416,000, then I look at another ward that's getting, that's getting 245,000 or better, and I'm looking at another ward that's not getting anything, and you don't call that capital?
You're not,
I don't think we're going to solve anything in this discussion. Sharon?
Yeah, I think we hear you, and we can bring back a report on, what maintenance is planned in East Wawanach for this year. And you'll certainly be hearing from the delegation that's coming forward. And I want council to keep in mind as well, as part of this shared service project, our whole operations for Public Works is on the table. And so when we're hearing from Councillor Knott some suggestions about sidewalk clearing and that sort of thing, I want you to keep in mind that we are giving our new Director of Public Works a mandate of finding efficiencies and improving service within this department. And so there's going to be, some collaboration with the existing staff, and we're going to be putting those plans in place. So hopefully we can make some improvements there.
Okay, so for April the 18th, you want some sort of a time spot to discuss this one last donation and the maintenance plan or something for. I'm not clear yet on what we need to have ready for next week.
Should we earmark the time that the discussion start?
Well, I have had a request from the group to come as a delegation and present, I believe, a petition regarding the road issue. Mrs. Taylor, you're going to be presenting a petition at the next meeting?
Yes,
regarding.
yes, we are, and we have a great number of residents that are wanting to come. And there are some that want to come that can't, but we'll be here.
So, we can certainly prepare a report in response to that, and I'll work with you on how to submit your presentation.
Thank you.
And so we will have to respond to that, so perhaps the budget discussion can follow that.
So will that be a presentation at council, or would they like to make that a budget meeting?
We don't have another budget meeting, like we had hoped tonight that we would solve all the outstanding questions tonight and then pass the budget on Monday night. So we're not going to be there now. So
I think we should be having a budget meeting prior to the council meeting to see if we can resolve it.
We will probably have it right together in the actual council meeting. Scheduled in. We'll change the agenda a little bit, but we can make it work.
I think we should try to start early because I think we might not make it otherwise, unless everyone wants to bring their PJs.
5 o'clock.
So for council.
Try 6 o'clock.
6:30. 6? Okay,
We're gonna need the time.
it looks like 6 o'clock is the consensus of wanting to start the meeting next Monday night. So that will be advertised on the website. Okay. Is there anything else before we can? Okay, we need an in-camera session tonight. Remember to go in camera. Councillor Syke, Councillor Bodden, all in favor? Carried.